You're a Roman senator in the year 408, and you've just watched Emperor Honorius execute the one man capable of saving the city. His name was Stilicho. He was Rome's best general, the only person who had ever managed to actually negotiate with the Visigoths, instead of just losing to them. And Honorius had him killed anyway, out of paranoia, from the safety of a fortified city 300 miles away from Rome itself.
2 years later, Rome fell for the first time in over 800 years, and the man who broke it wasn't some foreign invader who showed up out of nowhere. He was a soldier who had fought and bled for Rome, and who Rome simply refused to pay what it owed him. By 410 AD, Rome hadn't even been the empire's actual seat of power for over a century. That had already shifted first to Milan, then to a nearly unbesiegeable marsh city called Ravenna. The emperors had already abandoned Rome for their own safety, but nobody told the rest of the world that. To every province and ally across the Mediterranean, Rome was still the idea the entire empire was built on. This is the story of how the most powerful city on earth got taken down, not by an enemy, but by its own arrogance. And the strangest part isn't that it fell, it's what actually happened once the gates were open. Quick context if you don't already know. The Visigoths. They weren't some savage horde from nowhere. They were a Germanic people pushed toward Roman territory as the Huns expanded west. And Rome actually let them settle inside its own borders, as something closer to allies than enemies. Many of them, including Alaric himself, were Christian. Many had already fought in Roman armies. This wasn't an outside force showing up to destroy something foreign to them. It was a people who had already tried to become part of the empire and kept getting pushed back out. Let's go back to 394 AD. A Visigoth commander named Alaric leads 20,000 of his own men into battle, fighting for Rome under the Roman Emperor Theodosius against a usurper trying to take the Western throne. The battle is brutal. Alaric loses roughly half his force. His men die by the thousands for an empire that isn't even theirs. And when it's over, Rome barely acknowledges it happened. Alaric expects the one thing that would make the sacrifice mean something: promotion to general, real status inside the empire's command structure. He doesn't get it. Here's the part that almost never makes it into the popular version of this story. Alaric wasn't some outsider looking to conquer Rome for glory. He was a man who did everything right by Roman standards and got humiliated for it anyway. So his own people make him king instead. Not as a rebellion against Rome exactly, more as a decision that if the empire wasn't going to reward loyalty, they'd stop offering it for free. But even after that, Alaric doesn't go straight for Rome. He spends over a decade trying to negotiate. He wants a formal military title, food subsidies for his people, land recognized within the empire's borders. Reasonable asks, from a man who had already proven what his army could do for Rome when it wanted to. Rome's answer, every single time, is no. He invades Italy multiple times between 401 and 410, and loses more than once, at Pollentia in 402, and again at Verona in 403. Even after those defeats, Rome still won't give him what he's asking for. The Visigoths aren't destroyed. They just keep waiting, keep negotiating, keep getting refused. Then comes the moment that actually seals it. In 408 AD, Emperor Honorius, ruling from the safety of Ravenna instead of Rome itself, has his own general Stilicho executed. Stilicho was the one Roman leader who had actually managed to hold the line against Alaric through diplomacy and force combined. He was, by most accounts, the last competent adult in the room, and Honorius kills him anyway, out of fear that Stilicho was getting too powerful. Think about what that actually means. The emperor removes his own best defense against Alaric, voluntarily, out of paranoia, and hands his enemy a door that's now standing wide open. Stilicho had negotiated with Alaric before, had fought him to a standstill, had been the one steady hand keeping the whole fragile arrangement from collapsing. Honorius killed the only man who understood how to manage the threat, and left himself with nobody who could. Alaric marches on Rome. The Senate, desperate, pays him an enormous ransom: gold, silver, silk garments, spices, just to make him leave. He does, temporarily. Because the actual demand, recognition, and a real place in the empire still hasn't been met. He comes back. Negotiations fail again. And on the night of August 24th, 410 AD, the Salarian Gate is opened from the inside, reportedly by slaves or sympathizers already living in the city. Rome isn't just defeated militarily at this point, it's let in. For 3 days, the Visigoths move through the city. Palaces are looted. The imperial treasury is stripped. Here's where the story does something almost nobody expects. This wasn't the massacre that 8 centuries of buildup would suggest. Alaric, a Christian himself, orders his men to spare the churches. Historical accounts describe no mass killings. Most of Rome's population
portion survives untouched. Most of the city's actual structures remain standing. The damage wasn't really physical, it was symbolic, and that symbolism is exactly why it mattered so much. Rome hadn't been captured by a foreign army in over 800 years, not since the Gauls under a leader named Brennus took the city all the way back in 390 BC. Ancient writers had been measuring Rome's invincibility against that exact number for centuries. 800 years of being told the city was untouchable, and then it wasn't, and the emperor who let it happen was hiding in a fortress 300 miles away the entire time. The Western Roman Empire didn't collapse the day Alaric's men walked through the Salarian Gate. Rome wasn't even the empire's administrative capital anymore by 410. That title had already moved first to Milan and then to Ravenna. But the psychological damage was total. St. Augustine felt compelled to write an entire defense of Christianity because so many Romans blamed the sack on the empire abandoning its old gods. Refugees fleeing the city carried the news across the Mediterranean like the sky itself had cracked open. And Alaric himself never got to see what came next. He died just months later, marching south, his ambitions for a permanent settlement within the empire still unresolved. His own men diverted a river to bury him secretly beneath them. Riverbed, along with a portion of the treasure taken from Rome. Then let the water flow back over him so no one could ever find or desecrate the grave. To this day, nobody knows exactly where that grave is. Some accounts say the enslaved workers who carried out the burial were killed afterward, just to make sure the secret went with them into the ground too. Rome, meanwhile, staggered on for another 66 years as a Western empire in name only, propped up by whoever could hold the title of emperor longest. The sack of 410 didn't end Rome outright. It ended the idea that Rome couldn't be touched. And once that idea was gone, everything built on top of it started coming apart far faster than anyone expected. So here's what actually brought down the Eternal City. Not a foreign army arriving out of nowhere to destroy something it hated. A loyal soldier, humiliated by the empire he served, asking for the one thing he'd already earned. And an emperor so afraid of his own general that he handed the man who could have saved him directly to his enemy. Rome didn't fall because it was weak. It fell because it forgot what it owed the people who had already bled for it.